Hi, my name is Patrick Nsenga Buchana, and I'm an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Patrick Nsenga Buchana is a young Rwandan who is passionate about improving the commuter's experience on Rwanda's public transport system. His company, AC Group, has played a role in Kigali's transition to a cashless payment system using the popular Tap&Go smart cards. With over 1.5 million users in Rwanda and 100,000 in Cameroon, they are changing the face of public transportation. He sits on several boards, including the Klab Rwanda, where he is the chairman. Patrick Buchana is the founder and chief executive at AC Group.
All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Patrick.
Thank you.
Right. So in an interview granted a few years ago, you actually said you would like your life to be an example to young Africans out there that they can also make it. And here we are now about to share the story about the young Patrick making it. So please do share about, your preteen years and growing up in Rwanda.
I actually grew up in Uganda, just like many of the Rwandans today, because of what happened in the history of our country. Our parents and grandparents fled to nearby countries. And so I grew up in Uganda. I studied in Uganda. Later, when there was peace in Rwanda, after 94, we managed to come back in 98 just for a little bit. And then, kept moving between Rwanda and Uganda. Of course, the education systems in Uganda were still much better because of the stability they had had for some time. And so I studied there for my primary, a bit of it here, a bit of it in Uganda. And then moved back to Rwanda after high school. Yeah.
All right, so when did you leave high school?
So I left high school in about 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your first degree, where did you get it?
So my first half degree was at the College of Science and Technology, which is in very short form, KIST. I was doing electronics and telecom engineering.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, I discovered entrepreneurship might be an option. And so I left that and pursued entrepreneurship.
All right, and you've pursued this for quite a while and also attended Harvard and Stanford over time. What would you say are those key learnings that you took away from your time at Harvard and Stanford?
Well, Harvard is still ongoing, but still there's a lot that I've been able to learn from it. And the first is how to generally manage a company. At the time when I did the Stanford program, I actually noticed that the company was growing and growing much faster than my understanding. And so I had to go back and upgrade myself as well. So I learned lots of things from delegation to teamwork to running operations in a very systematic way, to actually, design thinking, which is something that's well known from Stanford the alumni. So it's been able to help the business in many ways. But it's not just been me doing these programs. Part of the Stanford program is that one of the facilitators comes and works with your team, your management team, on a few. Of course, it's not as detailed as the program that I was doing, but it gives them an overview so that everyone is at the same level of thinking. And that helped even boost the chemistry in the team and most of the concepts that we had learned. And because of that, when I later started the Harvard program, 5 of our members also did another online Harvard 12 weeks program. And that also kind of gave them lots of insights on innovation, disruption, which is something that we like doing in the tech space. So you're either disrupting or you're being disrupted.
To some, Patrick may have made it, but he's as hungry for knowledge as he was as a teenager. Most know him as the CEO of AC Group, and he also sits on numerous prestigious boards where he serves as director. What prepared him for this role?
Have you ever worked in any other organization besides the one you founded?
Yes, so I've worked in a number of organizations, 3 of them which I actually founded. And so the first was a product we did for the Ministry of Local Government here in Rwanda. It was a citizens reporting application which we partnered with Microsoft on.
Okay.
Unfortunately, just like many first businesses, it wasn't very successful. And it failed, but we learned so much from it. So it wasn't a failure.
Okay.
Yeah, it helped us do others better.
Okay.
And so I then had some engagements with Microsoft right after that through their Microsoft for Africa initiative. So I did some work for them at the time. And then later I had another organization that I also founded that was into energy and tried to venture in a number of West African countries. That also didn't work out because the nature of the project and the bureaucracies and some of the issues that happen with trying to set up such large-scale businesses in some countries in Africa. And then the third was AC Group, which is where I am right now, 4 years later.
All right, so founding AC Group, was it a natural evolution of, natural ideas?
So no, it wasn't. It wasn't. I had a bit of background with the service that was supposed to be sold to the government. Other was an energy product. I was vast with technology, but I wanted to do something within the health space. So we started engagements with the Ministry of Health, with the system, card-based system, and then we'd done so much research and said, where else can we have this? And we looked at public transport, and I also remember the pains we had with using the buses from school to home and home to school, or going to visit someone, and the inefficiencies. And so that's how we came up with our first product.
All right, tell me more about this first product and what the major challenges were that it was created to solve.
So the first product was really looking at public transport, especially because it's the most used means of transport, not just in Rwanda, but many cities across the world. And when you get into a bus, it could take between 20 minutes to 1 hour. So you can't really plan around that. That's such a big time range. And so we then kicked off, launched the first month with a card-based system, and we had about 500 clients in our first month, and yet we had anticipated to have about 10,000 clients. That was a hard knock, which kept us strong, and we said, let's keep doing this. Slowly the numbers grew, and in the first quarter of the following year, we then had moved up to almost 50,000, which was very encouraging. In our business projections, we had almost 200,000 by then. And so, yeah, it happened, but we could see growth, and we just kept in there and trying to see what more we can do. And so now we currently have 1.5 million clients.
It will be great to see how much Patrick has evolved as we dug up some of his statements at a younger age to compare with his thoughts and aspirations today.
I'll quickly go back to an interview you granted at age 23, where you were asked to estimate your achievements by percentages, and you said 20%. What would you say that estimate is today?
That's a good one. So I think it's about 25% right now. So not that nothing has been done since then. It's been a number of years. But because the achievements have even grown bigger, much bigger than and the goal that I want to get to has become much bigger and wider. So don't be surprised if we meet again and it's at 15.
All right. So as a child, you wanted to be president as well. Do you still have those aspirations?
Well, no, not anymore. Yeah, I think I've been in business now, and I like it. There's room for leaders who can take on political positions, and all we ask of them is that they can support and create enabling environments for people like us. And I would like to quote one of our president's speeches when he was at Africa Institute of Mathematical Science, one of their forums called the Next Einstein Forum, and they were asking him if he would consider doing business, and he said when he's done with his term, and he said his role is to create environments. I think they were referring to Zuckerberg somewhere in there. And he said his role is to create environments where we can have multiple Zuckerbergs coming up. And so, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, let's come back to AC Group again. You mentioned that you have some projects ongoing in Cameroon. You work with the ministry, I believe, the transport ministry here. Who are your other clients?
So we have a number of clients, actually. So we have all bus companies that are licensed to provide public transport in Kigali. All those are our clients. We also have the government. So within the government, there's almost 4 institutions that kind of, in one way or another, relate to the work that we do. So from the data perspective, we give them data that helps them make decisions. We work with them in setting some of the future trends, generations of public transport. We also have conferences. So we also do smart transport solutions for international conferences. So we've done it for the African Union, where they had 44 heads of state. We've done it for the World Economic Forum when they were in Rwanda. So that's also been our client. We've done it for Smart Africa, which is one of the biggest technology conferences that usually happens in Rwanda every May. We also have our commuters who have our platform and use it on a daily basis. So those are also our clients.
Okay, amazing. So you sit on several boards, and you're quite the busy man. I know what it took to track you down today. How would you advise an aspiring or an emerging business leader with regards to time management?
Well, I think the thing about time is it's one of the biggest resources and assets that anyone has. And so for it to be managed well is quite critical, especially when you are looking at building something or you're involved in something big. If something is not in line with whatever you've planned or wherever you're planning to go, then you respectfully say no to that. But you also notice that there's so much time in our daily, everyday life that if not noticed is actually misused. I'll give you an example. Probably you have just closed the meeting, you're probably driving to the next. You could do something other than driving. You could have an audiobook and listen to it. You could have a podcast. You could have someone preaching someone, which I sometimes do, and listen to it while you're driving. That's all knowledge, and you don't need to sit to have an hour to sit and listen to that. And so there's so many sessions in the day, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, that if you could actually combine throughout the day, you have 2 to 3 hours. And so you don't need to set aside time to read and time to listen and time to get inspiration. And so that all comes with planning. So plan ahead and kind of specialize and say, this is what I want to be and this is how I'm going to get here. And then everything else should align within that. Anything that's off is time-wasting activity.
Champions eat challenges for lunch, so don't be fooled by Patrick's soft exterior. He did not have an easy ride up.
I'm sure there are times that you've planned, but still faced certain challenges that were thrown in your way to halt sometimes your plan or slow you down. Could you please share with me some of these hurdles and challenges that you've had to overcome to make the strides you've made so far?
Sure. So actually, much as I speak so much about planning, I'm not exactly the best planner. My wife is a much better planner than I am, and she's been helping me with that right now. When it comes to businesses, we've had to pay a very heavy price in that, in the sense that we've seen opportunities. Some of them are not exactly in direct line of sight with our business, but they still look like they are very attractive. And so at a certain point in time, we tried to grab some of those opportunities, and it cost our business. And so some of the goals we had set, we reached them much later. And that was a costly lesson, which we then said, how can we narrow down and start putting so much focus on what we're good at, almost like the hedgehog concept, and saying, this is what I'm good at, and I'm going to try to make sure that I perfect it, and I'm the best in the world at this. And that's what we're trying to do as a business, and we've seen this help us grow in many ways.
All right, so earlier off camera we were, just comparing economies in Africa and whatnot. But what would you say makes the Rwandan business landscape unique?
It's quite a lot of things, but the biggest and most valuable asset that we have as a country is our president. Our president is a visionary leader and has been able to, to cascade this visionary leadership to most of the rest of the leaders in government. And so there's been an environment where a young person can think of an idea and actually not have to worry about who his father is, who his uncle is, which position someone in his family holds in government, for them to connect him. And that's incredible. Of course, there's many other challenges when it comes to business, but at least you know that you can dare to dream, and your dream is valid, and it can actually get to the market. And so that's been one opportunity. But also, Rwanda has opened itself up to the rest of the continent and the world. Rwanda has quite a number of good relations with a number of countries. Our president is loved and trusted. When you get to certain countries, having a Rwandan passport actually means you're someone people can trust. So when you're supplying to them something, they know they don't need to worry about you going around so many corners. And that, for me, I think is a very big asset. I saw it when in our engagements in West Africa, and I liked it. Yeah.
Of course, everyone would like that, and I'm hoping that some of our leaders will pick up from the visionary style of leadership that President Kagame has. But tell me, what's the current business structure at AC Group?
So we are very big when it comes to corporate governance. It's something that we take with so much caution. And so it's something I learned from Stanford, actually. And so at AC Group, we definitely have a board, which has both independent and non-independent board members, directors, and then myself as a CEO, and we've divided the rest of the structure according to our focuses. And so we have two major products, and that's the Tap&Go, which is transport and smart transport solutions. And then we have the Wi-Fi, which is the Tap&Go Wi-Fi, which we're looking at connecting people on our buses and connecting people generally outside the bus. And so we have global operations, and that's all operations that we have outside Rwanda and markets that we're looking at capturing in the near future. And so in a nutshell, that's so each of these divisions has its own structure within there, as with the COO who's leading. And so we have a COO for Tap&Go Wi-Fi, we have a COO for Tap&Go, and a COO for global operations.
Amazing. So what are the most critical lessons that you've learned and can share on running a business to profitability?
The first is figure out your HO concept. HO concept is what in the world can you be the best at. You can put it in the context of your country and try to make sure that you're the best at that. And then two is leadership. When it comes to leadership, there's two principles that we have at AC Group. The first is that skills can be learned, but character is by nature. And so when we're hiring new people, we look so much at integrity of the person as opposed to the skills and the education background and the likes. And then when we put you within, we definitely need someone who has a background in a particular field which they're going to take on, but also we do lots of training to get you up to speed with some of the things that we want you to achieve.
So tell me, how has travel and interacting with different cultures, added value to your person and impacted your firm?
Well, it's challenged me in many ways because you go out there and you meet companies that have done amazing things in a short span of time, grown so fast, have the best practices. And so for me, it's been lots of picking and saying, how can I make it better? Both for the company which I run, but also for the boards of companies that I'm involved in. And so it's picking the best practices and bringing them back home, sharing Rwanda's story. We don't have so many minerals and resources, so as much as we can pitch ourselves as a country with zero tolerance for corruption, that has visionary leadership where things actually get to work, then we get to attract more and more investors into the country, which is what grows economies. It's part of the reasons as to why economies grow. And so it's been an amazing experience for me and opened up possibilities to many things. We've also raised funding from some of our engagements outside Rwanda. So I've benefited so much.
All right, so how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, learning and listening. So I have actually just recently I felt like tweeting, and I said maybe let me just hold back. So I was going to tweet saying I think our team at AC Group can actually build a rocket if given the equipment. Sometimes I get amazed with the things that people do, the imagination and creativity that comes through, and the way we plan something and then it turns out. So I listen a lot to ideas and learn a lot from the team. I get challenged in many ways as well from them. So for me, it's just exciting to come to work. So I'm also a bit strict with the promises that we make. My team knows you don't say something if you're not going to do it. We do not tolerate any kind of company politics. We're a very young, lean team that our goal as a company should be before anyone's private interests. And so that's very clear.
All right, so tell me about your flaws and failings as a leader.
I've had quite a number of flaws. And one is choosing the team. So we had a team that worked with us in the start, the team that helped build the initial product at startup phase. But when we got to a certain level, we needed experienced people. And so choosing these experienced people, I was not very good at that. I only became good at that much later, almost 2 years after we actually needed it. The second is that sometimes I'm very reactive, especially in times of crisis. we run a platform that runs the whole public transport system of the city. And so one small issue affects lots of people at the same time. And so in that moment, sometimes I look back and think through what I would have done, and I think it's different. But then it happens again, and you know, so I'm learning from. So at some points, I've just left some of these issues to my team to handle them, because they handle them much better than I do.
What values are important to you and your firm?
Well, God comes first. We're all Christians, but we also respect other religions, and so we believe so much that we are where we are because God has been very gracious to us. Second is country, and we are in a country that has enabled us to build what we have right now. A country that has given us lots of value when we even pitch to outside. The fact that AC Group walks into an office and they know we are from Rwanda, they see trust and confidence. And then the third is family. Family, both in the sense that while we are working together, we are a family. That means we trust each other, we care for one another, and we put each of our team members first.
A chief executive who is open to listening and learning, and whose values center on humility and communication. We know Patrick eats challenges for lunch, but what does he have for breakfast and dinner? What does he do with his time away from work? I seek to find out these and more.
So I have a few quick fire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Chicken.
What's your fashion style?
Depending on what I feel like, so anything comfortable for me is. Yeah.
What's your favorite brand to wear?
Motions, local Rwandan producer.
So what CEOs do you look up to?
Bill Gates, Jack Ma.
All right. Your favorite travel destination?
Kigali.
Where is that? Rwanda. Okay, Kigali. All right. All right. And then what's your favorite car to drive?
A G-Class, even though I don't drive one right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite book of all time?
Good to Great.
That's a great book. And what book are you reading right now?
Shoe Dog. It's right here, actually. Yeah.
Nice. Feel nice.
Yeah, feel nice. Yeah.
Amazing. And lastly, I'd like to know, Patrick, what makes you happy?
Others around me being happy. So it's just a joy seeing everyone accomplish something that they've wanted to accomplish. And so their joy is my joy.
All right. Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs,
Thank
Patrick.
you too for having me.
Right.
Hi, my name is Patrick Nsenga Buchana, and you too can be an Under 40 CEO.